I'm Jeff Huntington's Bill Thorpe. Did Trump score a win yesterday?
Why was Jeff wanting me to ride a mechanical bull? I think he was trying to injure me yesterday.
Trump in Davos and Jeff and Bill at the National Western Stock Show yesterday.
Yeah.
It was a wild day. If you want to go see our journey around the National Western Stock Show and Billy wearing a pink cowboy hat and riding a stick horse.
Yes.
Go to x.com/Jeff Hunt.
Oh, no. The secret best picture in that entire video, this is the low-key best picture, is when I am rocking a wonderfully rhinestone bedazzled jean jacket that is obviously meant for a woman.
Yeah, I think the name of that little shop was Girly
Leggings or something, or Girly
Leggings.
something like that. Yeah. And the thing is, it was fantastic. I'm like, of course I'm going to try on the girl jacket.
It was a lot of fun in public.
Yes,
so,
I am.
Check it out.
I'm a spectacle, and it is so much fun. We had a great time. Yeah, check it out.
Speaking of spectacles, the World Economic Forum. Big day yesterday for the president. Gave a long speech, like over an hour, and then sat down and did Q&A. It was a big one, and I think Lutnick did a great job kind of summing up the kind of Trump worldview and what they're hoping to achieve. This is Howard Lutnick, Secretary of Commerce.
Well, I think you should start at a much higher level. Okay? We are in Davos at the World Economic Forum, and the Trump administration and myself, we are here to make a very clear point. Globalization has failed the West and the United States of America. It's a failed policy. It is what the WEF has stood for, which is export, offshore, far shore, find the cheapest labor in the world, and the world is a better place for it. The fact is, it has left America behind. It has left the American workers behind. And what we are here to say is that America First is a different model, one that we encourage other countries to consider, which is that our workers come first. We can have policies that impact our workers. Sovereignty is your borders. You're entitled to have borders. You shouldn't offshore your medicine. You shouldn't offshore your semiconductors. You shouldn't offshore your entire industrial base and have it be hollowed out beneath you. You should not be dependent for that which is fundamental to your sovereignty on any other nation. And if you're going to be dependent on someone, it darn well better be your best allies. Okay? And so that is a different way of thinking. It is completely different than the WEF. I viewed the WEF as not a flagpole in the middle, but in fact, they are the flag. Whichever way the wind blew, so it blew. You should have solar, you should have wind. Why are you going to do solar and wind? Why would Europe agree to be net zero in 2030 when they don't make a battery? They don't make a battery. So if they go 2030, they are deciding to be subservient to China, who makes the batteries.
That was Howard Lutnick yesterday, Secretary of Commerce. I thought that was the most brilliant expose of Trump's economic policies. It was succinct, it was focused, it was clear, and he is exactly right.
I think I agree with you. It was a beautiful expose of Trump's policies and completely false. Beautiful.
No, are you kidding me?
No,
Billy, I've driven around rural Colorado, and we don't build anything in this country anymore.
Let's talk about how it's completely and totally false. And it is a beautiful expose of Trump's economic policies, because what he said is completely untrue. Let's talk about the end. And it's very easy. And Howard Lutnick could have spent 2 minutes on Google to figure this out. There are 9 countries that make EV batteries in Europe. 9.
From what material?
What do you mean?
You think they're mining in Europe?
He's saying in Europe you don't make batteries. Poland, Hungary, Sweden, France, Germany. Germany is one of the largest producers of EV batteries. Germany does.
With the stuff they pull out of the ground.
Here's the thing. Some of the things come outside elsewhere sourced, but guess what? If you don't have those rare minerals, you can't get them anyway. You can't just magically create the rare minerals underneath you. But his claim was, hang on, his claim directly was that you don't build the batteries. There are 30 large battery manufacturing plants across Europe. 30.
Dude, his point is exactly spot on. They rely on all these other. They made this commitment. They're like, we're going to be completely carbon neutral, and then we're going to rely on these batteries with the material they don't even have. So they got to go out there and require.
He said you
and they
don't
need
make
all these
them.
other countries.
No, he said you don't make them. There are 30 factories in Europe.
You're nitpicking here.
No, making is
totally
manufacturing.
Nitpicking.
Making them is manufacturing. We don't make an iPhone here.
They don't build anything in America anymore. We don't build anything. And we're so dependent upon all these other countries for every other resource, and it's killing us.
This is a perfect example of Trump's boneheaded economic policy because Howard Lutnick says in Europe, you don't make any of the batteries. There are 30 factories making batteries.
You're nitpicking on the fact as to on the definition of making. If you don't have the resources to do it and you rely on all these other countries to do so, and you just happen to be the final chain that puts the little materials together, and then you get to claim, look, we made it here. You didn't make it here. You were the final step that pulled it all together. But this was, to Lutnick's point, this requires all these other countries. We've decided just randomly, because we buy into these progressive ideologies, that we have to shape our entire economy around being net neutral when it comes to carbon.
No,
why is that so important? We're doing that here in Colorado too, and we're experiencing all the costs associated with it.
See, and this is the point: is that the idea, and this is where it goes. Howard Lutnick is mad about going carbon neutral, so he goes forward and makes claims that are completely and totally untrue. And that's
completely and totally untrue.
Yes,
what do you
there
mean?
are 30 battery factories in Europe, and he says that Europe doesn't make them.
His point being is you rely on all these other countries.
So he's saying that you don't make them. He said you don't make
they
the batteries
don't make
here.
Them.
There are 30 factories.
Like
what's being made in the factories?
With what resources? They're not being pulled from these countries.
Okay.
His point is exactly right. We're so dependent upon this.
That's not his point.
That's my point.
Not his point.
You are nitpicking his exact language.
Yes, because if he's talking about consolidating resources, you talk about resources. He specifically mentions making batteries. That is manufacturing. That isn't mining. That isn't bringing raw materials in. That isn't the creation of the raw material inputs. It is the making. Making.
Billy,
if you go to a bakery and they say, I'm sorry, we don't make a cake, they're not creating the cake? Or can you say that the bakery doesn't create the cake because they didn't actually grow the flour?
Billy, you don't know what these battery companies do. They could be just slapping a logo on at the very end and going, look, we made the battery.
That, again, this is a difficult rationalization at this point because when I brought up the idea that there are 30 battery factories in Europe, we have to get to the point of, oh my gosh, maybe they're not really making them. Maybe all the batteries are shipped in there and they just put stickers on them, rather than looking at it and going, maybe Lutnick was incorrect. We have to go so far to defend the fact that Howard Lutnick was wrong about manufacturing batteries in Europe that we have to defend it.
His entire conversation because you think you can come up with a little factoid that somehow disregards his argument.
No. I have got a whole bunch of other stuff that he's wrong about earlier in the thing, but that's for later in the hour.
All right, let's talk about it.
Yeah, but this is right now before the news.
I'm hearing about all the great manufacturing happening in America under this globalism that's taking place.
I'm starting right here at the idea that he claimed that batteries weren't being made in Europe, and there are 30 factories, and Germany is one of the technological leaders.
You can't tell me anything about these factories.
Do you believe that they don't exist? Do you think that I'm making it up that they don't exist?
No, I think you're nitpicking in an effort to excuse a larger argument. And I think I could equally point out, you have no idea what these factories do. You're going, we have 30 factories that build batteries. And I'm saying they might just slap a logo on and claim that they're building batteries.
They have been referred to in the trades as gigafactories. That's large enough as far as manufacturing capabilities. They are inputting raw materials and creating the batteries. Now, you can be angry about where the raw materials are coming from, and there are some questions about who owns and who's in charge and made the investments in the battery factories. But the core issue is Lutnick says Europe doesn't make batteries, and there are 30 places that they do in Europe. He's just flat out wrong.
You're nitpicking
No, I'm
on
not.
this issue.
No, I'm
100%.
not.
You're ignoring the entire larger argument.
No, I'm ignoring the argument he made, which is that they don't make batteries, and yes, they do. He's wrong. He's wrong about other
he's
stuff, but that's
not.
later.
No, he's not.
There are 30 factories that make batteries. He said they don't make batteries. He's wrong.
All right, we'll get into this and more. Now is time for the news.
Blake Olson.
Blake Olson, news and comment.
Good Thursday morning, 18 and clear and a little bit cold out there in Denver, expecting a high of 39 today. News sponsored by Pastor Camp Heating and Air Conditioning at 303-777-1234 to learn more about special savings opportunities on Lennox equipment. Our top story.
And now to bring the Board of Peace into full force, I ask Sheikh Isa of Bahrain and Foreign Minister Barita of Morocco to join me in signing and ratifying the Board of Peace Charter. Thank you very much, everybody. Appreciate it. Thank you.
The President's Board of Peace is official. DJT wrapping up his trip to Davos today after making major foreign policy moves over the past couple of days. Wednesday, he announced he would not use military force to bring Greenland under U.S. control and instead said the framework of a favorable deal was being worked out on Fox News last hour.
We will have everything we want. We're getting everything we want at no cost.
So the Golden Dome will be on Greenland?
A piece of it, yes, and it's a very important part because it's everything comes over Greenland. If the bad guys start shooting, it comes over Greenland. So we knock it down. It's pretty infallible. It's amazing. You know, Ronald Reagan had the idea a long time ago, but we didn't have any technology at that point. The concept was great, but there was no technology.
I want to finish that out. I got it. Okay. And to kill some brain cells, let's listen to AOC. Says 47 gets a free pass, unlike Joe Biden, I think.
Yeah. I think that the president has been acting in increasingly erratic ways. I think it is really damning when we think about the degree to which mass media outlets reported on Joe Biden, and you know, that resulted in the Democratic Party changing its nominee, etc. Yet we are seeing behavior from Donald Trump that is increasingly erratic and alarming. And
oh my goodness. And she goes on and on. Gavin Newsom is in Davos. Scott Bessent brought up the nuisance in a speech. I think this was last night. Could have been this morning.
I think it's very, very ironic that, you know, Governor Newsom, who strikes me as Patrick Bateman meets Sparkle Beach Ken, may be the only Californian who knows less about economics than Kamala Harris. He's here this week with his billionaire sugar daddy, Alex Soros, and Davos is a perfect place for a man who, when everyone else was on lockdown, when he was having people arrested for going to church, he was having $1,000 a night meals at the French Laundry, and I'm sure the California people won't forget that. And I can tell my message to Governor Newsom is the Trump administration is coming to California. We are going to crack down on waste, fraud, and abuse. And I was told he was asked to give a speech on his signature policies, but he's not speaking because what have his economic policies brought? Outward migration from California, a gigantic budget deficit, the largest homeless population in America.
And more. And more. And VP JD will be in Minnesota today as tensions remain high over the ongoing illegal immigration work that continues in Minnesota cold. Vance is expected to meet with local leaders and community members and take part in a roundtable discussion. That should be fun. He left Davos this morning. Former special counsel Jack Slimeball Smith is set to testify publicly before the House Judiciary Committee today about all the garbage that he created about the president and J6 and alleged mishandling of classified documents, and obtained 2 indictments against DJT, but dropped the cases after 47 won a second term. Watch him this morning as he just lies through his teeth. Adrian Gonzalez, the former school police officer in Uvalde, Texas, has been found not guilty of failing to protect students during the 2022 mass shooting that killed 21 people. The verdict came after about 7 hours of jury deliberations. A warning for pet owners about 2 recent coyote attacks in Lafayette. A small dog was killed on Saturday morning when a coyote attacked it in the backyard of a home. Another dog died on Tuesday morning after being attacked in the backyard. Both dogs were left unattended. Keep an eye on your pets. Broncos with a big practice today in preparation for Sunday's AFC Championship game against the Patriots. Bo Nix speaks for the first time via social media. He wrote after having surgery 2 days ago that it's been a difficult week and that he loves his teammates and the organization and that he has confidence in Jarrett Stidham as Stiddy tries to fill the shoes of Nix on Sunday. He also said, hey, God never says oops, and he is always good. Amen to that. The Avalanche on the ice against the Anaheim Ducks last night.
If he scores, Anaheim wins. And Anaheim wins. What a victory. Incredible effort.
Gauthier with the winner. And it goes to an overtime shootout. That was the shootout. And the final 2-1. It is 15 in Castle Pines, 17 in Louisville, 18 in Denver. You're waking up with Jeff and Billy on a Thursday. Blake Olson News Talk 710 KNUS.
The Arctic Express is going to graze the Front Range and Eastern Plains of Colorado here late this week and over the weekend. Be prepared for some winter temperatures, but not for today. We're going to be mid to upper 40s, upper 30s tomorrow, and teens tonight. The cold air begins to leak in Thursday night. Much colder. Lows 5 to 10 with areas of flurries. Very cold Friday. Cold northeast winds. Highs only teens with some areas of light snow. Some areas of light snow. Lows near 0 Friday night. High Saturday only teens with areas of light snow. Meteorologist Don Day in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
Donald Trump spiking the football yesterday after a great performance in Davos. He's continuing there, like at work at the World Economic Forum. Headline from the White House: in Davos, President Trump outlines bold vision for American prosperity, transatlantic strength. Wall Street Journal calling it the Davos disconnect. The bien-pensant political and business leaders who show up to these confabs espouse a liberal order of democracy and free markets, but then they rely on the U.S. to enforce their values around the world, while also generating sufficient global prosperity to allow them to fund their growth-killing welfare states and climate pieties at the expense of their own militaries. And the barbs hit hard from Trump among the Davos crowd because they know they depend on the U.S. more than they'd like, and they know it's their own fault. Here's one of the leaders of NATO. This guy is the general secretary yesterday.
You, I know, criticize Donald Trump. But do you really think that without Donald Trump, 8 big economies in Europe, including Spain and Italy and Belgium, Canada, by the way, also outside Europe, would have come to 2% in 2025 when they were only on 1.5% at the beginning of the year? No way. Without Donald Trump, this would never have happened. They're all on 2% now. Do you really think that in the summit in The Hague, as already Alex was saying, the president of Finland was saying, that we would come to an overall defense spending of 5%, including 3.5% in core defense, if President Trump would not have been re-elected as president of the United States? No way. It would never have happened. So again, I'm not popular with you now because I'm defending Donald Trump, but I really believe we can be happy that he is there because he has forced us in Europe to step up, to face the consequences, that we have to take care more of our own defense. And when it comes to the Arctic, I think President Trump is right. Other leaders in NATO are right. We need to defend the Arctic. We know that these sea lanes are opening up. We know that China and Russia are increasingly active in the Arctic. There are 8 countries bordering on the Arctic. 7 are a member of NATO. That's Finland and Sweden and Norway and Denmark, Iceland, Canada and the US. And there's only 1 country bordering on the Arctic outside NATO, and that's Russia. And I would argue there is a 9th country, which is China, which is increasingly active in the Arctic region. So President Trump and other leaders are right. We have to do more there. We have to protect the Arctic. Of course, I see that there are these tensions at the moment. There's no doubt. Again, I'm not going to comment on that, but I can assure you the only way to deal with that is, in the end, thoughtful diplomacy.
That is the NATO Secretary General, Chief Mark Rutte, yesterday singing Trump's praises. I thought it was an absolutely fantastic showing of American strength at the World Economic Forum. Watch Trump's video. The guy that introduced Donald Trump reminded folks that the only 2 sitting presidents have ever come to the World Economic Forum. You have all these folks gathering there, right? All these different countries gathering there in Europe. And both times it was Donald Trump while he was president of the United States. Went to Davos. And when Trump spoke, standing ovation. I think there's a resetting of the global order here. I've noticed this thing about the World Economic Forum. It's all these like kind of pencil-y, thin little dudes that speak there. And Trump came into that room, reminded everybody of their strength, of the American power and might and economic engine. To the NATO Secretary General's comments there, he's pulled everybody in to donate more to NATO. He's strengthened NATO. He's got them focused on Greenland. This is American leadership on the global stage. It was beautiful. It was brilliant. I loved it. Your thoughts, Mr. Thorpe?
Oh, it was a little crazy. What I heard, and I didn't watch the entire speech. I could only do bits and pieces of it, because every time I started to listen further, I kept having flashbacks of what I heard Soviet leaders say in the 80s. It was almost color by numbers about strength, and that you better understand who runs this place, and that the powerful are the ones that make the rules, and you need to understand who you're talking to. And I mean, that, in my mind, the speech that Trump gave could have been given by one of the Soviet leaders in the 80s. That's what I heard. I heard authoritarian, bordering on dictatorship approaches to the world. And the NATO guy you played earlier, yeah, he's right. NATO wouldn't have made those increases, but it lacks context. He's giving Trump credit for doing it. But to me, and again, this is going to sound wrong, but understand the analogy, that is like giving the Access credit in World War II for the creation of NATO. The North Atlantic Treaty Organization grew out of that. And that's like giving the Access powers. You know what? Maybe those guys weren't all bad, because look at what happened. That good thing that came out of the end. So the reason that NATO is doing this isn't because of the magnanimity or generosity or leadership of Donald Trump. It's because they're scared, because he is threatening allies that he wants to take over part of their land. they don't feel they can trust America. And that was kind of the entire speech of the Canadian Prime Minister the day before that Trump was butthurt enough about to then point out and tell the Canadian Prime Minister that he better behave during his speech. So that was a speech from the Canadian Prime Minister, was that you can't trust America anymore. And that's what the NATO guy was saying, is that all these smaller countries are now investing more in defense because of the premise that the Canadian Prime Minister laid out 2 days ago, that the smaller, mid-sized countries don't feel they can and should trust America anymore.
These European globalists that have been running the show for the past 20 years or so have ruined their own countries, sabotaged their own economies, destroyed their manufacturing capabilities. Lutniks claim that they're not the flagpole that stands strong, that they're the flag that just gets blown in whatever progressive wind direction comes, was spot on. That is an exact, clear definition of what's happened to Europe. Why? Why as a nation, as a group of countries, you would agree to going net neutral when you don't have the manufacturing capabilities to be able to sustain it, and then rely on these terrible countries like China and Russia? I mean, look at what Europe has to do with regards to natural gas. They're in a war with a country that they rely upon for natural gas. They're setting themselves up not for strength and independence, but dependency upon these nations like Russia and China. Donald Trump has reset the global order. He's reminded them of their strength. He's bringing back manufacturing capabilities. He's getting them out of this globalist funk that they are. Europe's going to be stronger. America's going to be stronger. Western civilization is stronger because of Donald Trump and his leadership. Prove me wrong. 303-696-1971. Text us on the Dan Capitalist Law text line 720-819-5115. Let's talk advanced hair restoration. How about a simple New Year's resolution, one that even I could achieve? Reverse the clock on hair loss with advanced hair. Simple. One-day FUE treatment. You'll feel more confident and more youthful when you witness your own natural hair growing into those places that have been balding or thinning for years. From Advanced Hair's breakthrough technology to their highly experienced team, there's no one I trust more in hair restoration. Their simple FUE treatment begins to regrow your own natural hair the very next day, and your new hair is backed by the Advanced Hair Guarantee. Simply put, Advanced Hair's exceptional standard of care makes your comfort and your results their top priority. Celebrate this new year with a fuller head of hair and get a free consultation, $250 off, and 250 free hair grafts. Call 720-459-HAIR. That's 720-459-HAIR. Discover what meeting your resolution could look like with the before and after pictures at advancedhair.com. Advancedhair.com. We'll continue with your phone calls and texts. Is Donald Trump reestablishing Western civilization and their strength, and it was on display at Davos, like I said? Or is this Soviet strong-arm tactics, more authoritarianism, and he's actually breaking apart the European cohesion with his selfishness? What do you think? 303-696-1971. Text us on the Dan Capitalist Law text line, 720-819-5115. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's Talk Leader, News Talk 710, KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. America standing strong at Davos. That's my perspective. President Trump outlines bold vision for American prosperity, transatlantic strength. Here are some of the highlights according to the White House. President Trump outlined innovative initiatives that are lowering costs for everyday Americans. President Trump has showcased the remarkable economic achievements of his first year back in office. President Trump issued a call to Europe for action. And here's a NATO Secretary General.
You, I know, criticize Donald Trump. But do you really think that without Donald Trump, 8 big economies in Europe, including Spain and Italy and Belgium, Canada, by the way, also outside Europe, would have come to 2% in 2025 when they were only on 1.5% at the beginning of the year? No way. Without Donald Trump, this would never have happened. They're all on 2% now. Do you really think that in the summit in The Hague, as already Alex was saying, the president of Finland was saying, that we would come to an overall defense spending of 5%?
So you got NATO organizing, coming together. Now, some are saying that it's because of Trump's actions they're organizing against him. Well, okay, but to that point of the NATO Secretary General, you have countries like Canada who espouse how important NATO is. Well, they got them up to 2% from 1.5% of the funding going into NATO. So countries are putting more money in because of Donald Trump. So help me understand, all of you out there that go, Trump's weakening NATO, whether they're organizing because they don't like Trump or they're organizing because Trump's forcing them to step up, you have a stronger NATO. That's the bottom line. You have a stronger NATO because of Donald Trump. Isn't that something to celebrate? Text messages hot coming in on this one. The Lost Jockey, we're watching all the countries come together. It looks like NATO is doing exactly what it's supposed to be doing.
To battle the U.S. That's what they're doing. It's an ally. And that's the thing is you sat there and that you're saying that NATO is getting stronger because they feel threatened by Donald Trump, their ally, and a member of NATO. That's the rest of that sentence that needs to be completed. We are taking actions that make our closest allies for decades uncertain of our goals and our friendship. That's crazy. Absolutely crazy. And the U.S. enjoys its powerful position in the world precisely because of NATO, because of the support of the countries that we have behind us. That is part of the nuclear deterrent throughout Europe. Our base is in Europe. That's because of NATO. We keep messing around like this and NATO falls apart or NATO kicks us out or thinks they can't trust us, those bases go away and we become an isolated island. And we become much, much more vulnerable because we lack the ability to project actual kinetic power elsewhere around the world. We can't easily get anywhere in order to drop our troops places. So we become much more isolated and much less of a threat. And I don't remember, does everybody remember that maybe the one time that the common defense Article 5 of NATO that has been invoked, the single time was after 9/11? The single time that has been used was to support us after we got attacked. That's the only time Article 5 has ever been invoked in NATO, was for them to defend us. And some of those countries lost a lot of people per capita based on a percentage of the population. Denmark, the people that were threatening over Greenland, based on a percentage of the troops they gave, lost a higher concentration of the percentage of troops than we did in the actions. They gave up more lives as per capita than we did. That's a sacrifice by a NATO ally, and now we're saying we're going to take your territory. We are trying to tear down NATO, and this is ridiculous. All the claims, they're stronger. Sure, they're stronger because we are scaring them. That is lunacy.
But I don't think it's lunacy. What I think is lunacy is having a weak NATO, weak Europe, but at least we're all nice to each other. I mean, here's the Wall Street Journal. Call it the Davos disconnect, the bien-pensant political and business leaders who show up to these confabs, espouse a liberal order of democracy and free markets, but they then rely on the U.S. to enforce their values around the world, while also generating sufficient global prosperity to allow them to fund their growth-killing welfare states and climate pieties at the expense of their own militaries. I mean, one of the critiques with regards to Greenland is you guys can't even manage your own borders. You've so bought into this liberal, progressive, open border, come on in, doesn't matter how many people or what your values are, just come right into our country. By the way, we're going to support you with an ever-growing welfare state. It's crumbling Western Europe. Canada's crumbling. Its own economy is crumbling. And yet they have no vision with regards to actually deal with China or Russia. United States has gotten NATO refocused, has got the money up, has got the engagement and the strength up, has got them serious about Greenland, and that's because of Donald Trump's leadership. Let's go to the phone lines. Michael in Denver. Good morning, Michael. You're on with Jeff and Bill.
Good morning.
Good morning, guys. Hey, Jeff, you could not have been more right on exactly what you just said. And point I want to make is, and bring it up, do you know what the world would look like today if the United States of America had not acquired Alaska and made it a state in 1959? What that would look like with the resources, the oil, the minerals, the gold, having Russia today with missiles on our own, practically minutes away from our cities. What would that look like if that hadn't happened? And acquiring that then. And Greenland is very strategic. They've been talking about it for weeks. Trump has been talking about it for years. And by the way, NATO's not going anywhere because we have bankrolled them for decades, trillions of dollars. We've defended them with our defense. They don't have any defense against Russia or China or any of them.
Michael, what's the role of NATO? What is the role of NATO? They rely on us. So they do have some defense, but they do rely on us. So the idea it's an organization that keeps Russia and China at bay, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So what happens if Russia invades Greenland?
What happens if Russia
invades Greenland, because that's the danger. We got to secure Greenland for territory because we got to make sure Russia doesn't invade. So Russia invades Greenland tomorrow. What happens?
What happens if it is like it is? What happens if they're going to do it anyway?
Michael, I will answer your question after you answer mine. Russia invades Greenland tomorrow, and the next step is what? What happens? What is the role of NATO, and what does the U.S. do?
We go after them.
Okay. So now, Michael, help me explain me. Good. So we defend them. So, Michael, hang on. Michael, hang on. Michael, the next question I have for you is, if we are going to defend them when Russia attacks, why do we have to have control of the territory if we're already defending it in case of an attack? And that's because of NATO. So explain to me again why we need it when we're already going to come to its defense.
Well, let's play it out and see what happens, Bill. We'll see who's right and who's wrong in the end. Okay, we can be
but Article 5. Hang on a sec, Michael. Article 5 says we have to come to their defense. Are you saying we're going to violate Article 5?
No, I don't think so. But the argument Trump's making, though, is that Denmark and NATO are not going to build up their defenses well enough. That their current management of Greenland and the threat from China and Russia is not sufficient. The United States
Michael and Jeff, explain to me what are the barriers right now that is preventing the U.S. from creating a larger military presence through our NATO ally in Denmark, like we do all across Europe. Sea bases in England and Germany, for examples. What's preventing that from happening?
You tell me, Bill.
Nothing. And that's why what Donald Trump's doing is stupid.
You think Denmark's giving us free reign to build whatever we want on there?
Yeah, they would if we asked them to and we worked on them. Again, here's the idea. We're operating now from an assumption that because Trump is right and we don't have a larger military presence there, obviously Denmark is preventing us. Not that we have tried or wanted or expressed the need to get a larger military presence there. Just like this BS.
Exactly
no, not at all. Just like this BS example of the idea that we need to get there and do the mining rights. Because of the NATO treaty, our countries would have access to those rare earth minerals and those mining rights, and our companies could go there if they wanted to. Right now, it is not profitable. That's why they're not there. It has zero to do with Denmark being the sovereign of the country. And here's the core, Michael, that you need to take away from this. The NATO treaty allows us to defend Greenland just as if it was our territory. It allows the same thing.
Well, once
the only
it's
difference
attacked,
is yes.
But that's the point, Bill. Is preemptively build
what
the
we preemptively
strength.
attacked?
No, build the American military strength on Greenland to prevent a future attack. Greenland clearly hasn't done that. Denmark hasn't done that.
Wait, Greenland is not that far away from the U.S. It wouldn't take us that long to get people there. We already have military installation there.
Bill, that's the point.
No. The point
We're
of NATO.
We're always going to be reactionary.
The point of NATO is exactly what Jeff was just talking about. The idea of being a preventative mechanism because this group of nations will push back on an attack. That is the core preventative idea behind NATO. Jeff said that's exactly what should happen. That's it. That's the thing is, this already exists. This entire machination of Donald Trump is farcical because everything he claims to want already exists, except for the fact that America doesn't plant their flag there and claim it.
Bill,
this is just
Europe
expansionary
is
colonialism.
collapsing. Michael, I'll give you the final word.
Well, I think he redressed that a little bit when he talked about he didn't want to rent, he wanted to own.
There you go.
That's
all right. Yeah.
Yeah. So that is exactly what I said.
Think there's some
colonialism and
benefits to
expansionism. It's imperialism. Yes, that's exactly what I said. Thank you, Michael, for proving my point. This is expansionism, colonialism, imperialism.
What do you think Denmark's ownership of Greenland is? Not colonialism?
Again, I'm not arguing what or why, but if Denmark does have colonialism there, that doesn't mean that doesn't mean because of it, then we get to do it too, or should turn around and do it. That doesn't, especially when they're an ally. That's the silliness, is that we've just decided, well, because they have done that, we are going to correct the ledger by doing the same thing. That's stupid. Just like Donald Trump's plans.
The only stupid thing is to walk away from Greenland because of colonialism.
We're not walking away from it.
When there's already colonialism there.
We
can do it better.
They're a NATO ally. The only way we walk away from it is if we leave NATO.
America
but I thought this was strengthening NATO.
It owns.
I thought this was strengthening NATO. But now we're saying it's only vulnerable if we walk away from it. That would mean us walking away from NATO, because as long as we're a member of NATO, Article 5 exists and we have to defend it. So unless we walk away from NATO, it's not at risk. Ta-da! That's what I'm saying that Trump is trying to destroy NATO. We finally closed the circle. Example.
Join the conversation. 303-696-1971. Text us on the Dan Caplis Law text line, 720-819-5115. Everybody goes kicking and screaming when Trump leads, but eventually they admit he's right. All right, let's go to Guy Rees. Folks, my wife and I have been talking about updating our home for a while. We had really crummy blinds that we ordered online. They just break. We were frustrated, and the one in our bedroom was stuck at a weird angle. So we went to Guy Rees, and they got locations all over Denver. We went to the one in Parker and sat down with their professional designer, and they showed us an incredible selection of Hunter Douglas custom blinds, shades, and shutters. You guys have no idea how many options are out there. So many different options. So I was a little overwhelmed at first, but the designer walked us through everything and helped us find the perfect options to enhance the look and functionality of our home. So whether your curtains are clashing or you just want a fresh look, Guy Rees has the solutions for you. Their designers are the experts, and they can help you with everything from window treatments to full room decor. But here's the best part. They offer a personalized in-home consultation. They'll come to you, so you can get the same expert advice right in your own home. Do yourself a favor. Get started today. Visit GuyRees.com to schedule your in-home consultation. That's GUIRYS.com, GUIRYS.com. Go see the great people at Guy Rees. You'll be sure to thank me. And we'll continue with your phone calls and texts. Holy cow, that's a lot of text messages.
That's a lot of them.
All right, we'll get to them. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's Talk Leader, News Talk 710, KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. I am doing my best to keep up on these text messages.
Yeah, me too. There's a lot of them. You guys, you can call us. We can chat. I'm just saying.
Suzanne, do Greenlanders want to be Americans?
No, they don't, actually.
But, do they want to be Denmarks? I know they've had to negotiate that stuff too, but they're not technically Danish citizens, are they?
No, but they have some form of self-rule. It's not necessarily independence, but saying you're now a territory of America doesn't get them that independence either. So the idea that, well, they're under Danish rule, so now they need to be under American rule, that doesn't work the conversation through as far as them being free. Also, one of the hottest selling items in Greenland right now is basically a FU America hat that's red. It's one of the hottest selling items in Greenland right now. So no, Greenlanders do not want to be Americans.
Do you think you get to really have all the choice you want when you're strategically placed in between two major superpowers?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, especially when you're part of a treaty organization that is built there for common defense.
Greenland's part of a treaty organization?
NATO, Denmark. Yes.
No, Denmark is.
Yeah. So,
Denmark's not going, we really care all that much about what the Greenlanders want.
Sure, they gave them more sovereignty.
Going, they're ours, we're part of NATO, we're not letting you go.
No, again, you're making assertions of which I don't think you can back up as far as claims. You're making assertions that Greenland somehow wants their independence. But here's the idea that the reason it doesn't work in this argument is Greenland's independence isn't a function of becoming an American state or protectorate. That's not Greenland's independence. So if we were fighting and saying Greenland needs to be free and they shouldn't be and they can make their own treaties, go ahead and make that argument. But saying America needs to control them.
That's what I just pointed out.
I know, but
I was like, do you really get to have that say right now?
You don't get to say it under America. So
under Denmark.
But hang on, but it doesn't solve the problem you're creating. So if the solution doesn't solve the problem, why are we arguing over what the problem is? And Greenland is there, and those smaller nations in NATO, the smaller and medium-sized nations, did enjoy the protective umbrella because of the big brother of the U.S. And that was the premise of the Prime Minister of Canada's speech 2 days ago, saying that it appears that the medium-sized countries are being left to the whim of the global hegemony that is right now China and the U.S., and that they better recognize it or they're going to be pushed around, just like you said. Well, does Greenland deserve to have its independence since they're between two superpowers? Could they possibly afford to have their independence? That's why they have to be a state of America. That's the Trump argument. So that's the problem with it.
No, I think what's underneath that is this kind of late 90s, early 2000s, like, we're going to allow all countries to have their own determination. And this kind of bleeding heart that resulted in China stepping in going, you nitwits, we're just going to run around and do the Belt and Roads Initiative, take everyone's control anyways. We're just going to do it financially. We're not going to send our military, but we're still going to be colonialists. And the result was China grew, Russia's grown, and America stepped back, and Western Europe got weak. And that was the end result of it. So the conversation will continue. 303-696-1971. You're listening to the Jeff and